Be honest.
Yeah, and having never seen any of the questions. This is true. Just let her rip, Tater Chip.
This is probably gonna be one of the funnest times I'm gonna have with you, Cody, right now.
We will see what we can do.
Yep. So last time we hung out though was October. That's the last time that's the last time I seen you in person.
Oh yeah, no, it was
right when I stopped down and picked up the muzzleloader from Jim and Luke, and then we went out to the desert, did a little glassing.
Yes, sir. That was good. Mm-hmm. That was informative.
Mm-hmm. Should be some coos deer.
Yeah, a couple.
Yeah,
a couple does.
It wasn't prime morning glassing conditions, but yeah, glassed up some bedded coos.
But that's actually the best spot for them in the afternoon.
That's so crazy to me.
Yeah,
so crazy to me. And then after that,
I'll show you some pictures on another deal, later. But I had a buddy of mine that was quail hunting over there, and
he ran into a slob.
Well, no. I was because he'd never glassed or anything,
mm-hmm.
And so I showed him the area, like they were on another tree, and he's looking at it, and he's like, okay, he finally made out the outline of a doe in the shade. And I go, okay, well now tell me where the buck is.
There.
So he spent like 10 minutes just like searching and searching and searching.
Hmm.
And he goes, okay, I give up. And I said, okay, so if the doe is center of the clock, I said, go to like 6:30,
mm-hmm.
just into the sun. And I said, you could just see a little bit of an arc of a yellow antler.
You find it?
And the buck was literally laying down. And he was like, all of a sudden the buck did this, but kind of went like that, like, fly or something,
Yeah.
And he was like, oh my God. And it just was one of those moments where you just, like, that was that aha moment for that guy. He's like, now I get it. Now I understand
mm-hmm.
why you do what you do.
Yep.
He said, he said, Cody, that deer, he said, I would have left after 3 minutes and not seeing anything else. Yeah.
Situations like that too makes you wonder how many people do miss things, myself included, where you don't see something, you're there 2 minutes late, antler tips move behind a bush, you're never going to see it again. You're not patient enough. I think patience comes into big play with all this stuff.
100%.
And you just think, oh yeah, there's nothing here.
But that's again, that's the it's always that difference of like an ear flicker or the shine of a horn or antler or something that just tips you off to where you would just concentrate on that one thing for a second, mm-hmm. and then you're like, oh, it's right there.
Yep.
So eyeballs,
mm-hmm.
that ring, that's the infamous one.
Yep.
So
you guys don't know by now. I mean, we have one of my favorite humans in the entire world, Cody Nelson.
That's pretty. I feel like I'm in good company when you say that.
I usually say the man, the myth, the legend, Cody Nelson.
I wouldn't go that far, but
and he's our optics guy here at GOHUNT, so he knows everything optics. So today,
I try.
You do. You know everything.
I feel like you're about to throw me a few curveballs in the dirt, though.
Yeah, because Cody hasn't seen any of these questions yet, which would be really funny.
Any of these questions.
So
this is just unfiltered. Let's have a rip.
I have them all printed off here, and I think we're close to 100. I stopped. We made a little post on Instagram yesterday asking for optics questions.
Yep.
And it hasn't even been 24 hours yet, and so I pulled these here.
It's like been 18 hours.
Yeah, so I pulled these at right at 9 a.m., printed them off, and I got them all listed out here.
Omar must be just blissfully happy that we got that many questions. And
yeah, and we don't have to do an Instagram video. We can do it on a podcast. So we're going to basically pick Cody's brain on all optics questions here, and we're going to try to answer them on the podcast. I'm going to try to do my best to go through all of these questions, but if we don't, maybe we'll try to figure out a way to answer some of them.
Very interesting to see what everybody's at. Yeah. Sometimes these things take a path, like they want to go down one road.
They might. So, and I already saw some of them are going to be pretty fun.
We will do our best not to offend.
Yeah.
But the truth hurts sometimes.
Yeah, and I'm running solo today, so I don't have Trail or Lorenzo here, which is fine. I like talking to you as my brother, as my homie. So this will be pretty smooth and pretty easy.
Yeah.
But first, since I'm not going to let Trail down, I am going to hit you guys with a promo code. Trail will be really impressed. I did this in the first, I don't have a clock running right now, like the first five minutes of the podcast, which I'm supposed to be doing. So, guys, it's application season right now. And you can do some hunting research. If you use promo code podcast when you sign up for a GoHunt Insider account, you will get 50 points back to the GoHunt Gear Shop. And that 50 points is $50. So, Cody, in your opinion, what would you spend $50 on? Optics?
Glassing
tripods?
pads.
Anything glassing
Tripods.
related?
I could always use more plates.
Yeah. So, use
Arcus plates I seem to be running out of all the time.
Perfect. So, use that promo code podcast and you sign up for Insider because we're deep in it. We still have, I don't know when this podcast is going to drop, but we have a lot of application deadlines coming up. I know we're sitting here and knocking on the heels of Colorado application deadline. We got Montana, Utah's coming up, a lot of the big states. So by the time this comes out, maybe those states will be out.
New Mexico went by and
it just went by really quick.
And
I snuck my app in the last day of New Mexico.
Yeah, I
put my app on top.
I didn't do it this year only because I have a conflict. I got a bunch of bonus points in Arizona this year, and there's going to be a conflicting hunt if I draw what I want. So.
Okay, well,
got to be careful with those sometimes.
No, you do. That's why I was cautious in New Mexico, and I'm cautious in other states because I do have a lot of points. People hate when I say metric. Well, ton of points, but I do carry a metric ton of points because I'm not going to say the points total I have. Yeah, because I like to protect it. But I carry a lot. Let's just say that.
If I remember correctly, it's weighted.
Yes. So let's jump in that first question right here, based on what you just said. All right. Maybe I'll say some of these names. Maybe I won't. Depends on how long I get going. But this is from Woody Davis on Instagram. I want to see a hunt film where Cody has a tag.
I'd love to do that. I get tags once in a while. I've gotten some pretty good tags. I had some good time. We should get one thing for certain. We'd certainly we get some good footage.
You need to get the glassing guru on a Coos deer hunt. Show us.
It would be my honor. It would be fun.
Show us your wheelhouse. Okay, so we're just answer that question.
Do I have to get all secretive with my spots like Brady does?
I'll train you how to get secretive.
Like no horizons and no mountains in the pictures. And
I'll teach you how to hide
It's a pine tree, Brady.
I'll teach you how to hide your UTMs on GoHunt maps. So every time we pan over, it's not going to show people exactly where you're at.
That's good.
So we're going to jump in these questions now. Cody, next question. When hunting, this is from Uncle Tyler. Gosh, what a great name. When hunting super thick North Idaho timber, is there a reason to buy a Hubble? And I think he's saying Hubble in terms of my Swarovski 115, because I always call it the Hubble.
I mean, if you've got places that you can look into, and you can get away from them to where, the field of view and everything makes sense and you can see into the shadows and into the dark stuff, I would say absolutely.
So you don't think it's a limiting because you have such a big optic and thick timber? Because you got to see animals to kill animals.
Yeah, I mean that's the whole thing. And when he says he's looking into the timber, I'm hoping that it's broken up at least to where you can see the base of trees and through trees and into the bases and quite honestly, that wouldn't be the first time that we found animals looking into the thick stuff. Mm-hmm. So I think if you go back. That was the whole thing, like when people used to talk about, the old 1560s ice and looking for coos deer, is they were looking through bushes and trying to see the shadows behind them. Yeah. And in fact, that's happened a lot. So again, I don't know the exact situation that he's in, but I can tell you that if you can see, forest floor, or you can see bases of trees and back behind things, I think anything's worth a look. You'll never know when you find them.
Exactly, especially get a little.
If you're not breaking them up and looking for them, you'll never find them. But if you've got the optics and reach out and do that, I would absolutely give it a try.
Perfect. This is from Salvador Diaz. Thoughts on the future of stabilizing optics?
It's absolutely 100% on the table. I know there's companies talking about it, and SIG You know, I mean, the whole thing, you know, Canon and Fuji, I mean, there's a lot of people that have done this over the years, Zeiss, not electronically, but there's so many things that have happened, you know, over the years, and you know, there was some limiting factors on some of those optics back in the day, but I mean, personally, I'd like to see, I think where I would gain personally most from it is the sensitivity of focusing and the shimmer that you would get out of a big spotter. I think that if we could minimize that, I think that is going to be game changing for sure. I really, if anybody's ever, well, the old 20x60 Zeiss, when you get those tripod mounted and you engage the gyro or whatever they call that in there, and then you focus them with that engaged, it is infinitely better than to not using it. Gotcha. So I think there's a huge future in it. I think it's coming. I think we're just getting started in this, and I completely am accepting it, and I want it.
Okay. I want to do a follow-up question to this guy's question.
Yeah.
This is from me personally. I did not submit it, so I'm going to do it right now because I'm asking the questions.
Can.
Yes. Are stabilizers an unfair advantage when hunting? Is there...
You know, no, because look, I still think it's your eyes looking at it. In my opinion, I mean, I could see where someone would draw that line. I mean,
I just wanted to play devil's advocate.
When you look at the comments and things that you see on those kind of things, I think that's great. But my thing is that it's still my eyes that have to look through it. And so, you know, somebody could say that, but I don't think they are.
I would agree.
I just don't.
You still have to be out there. You still have to be using
as far as that's concerned, I think rangefinders are a must. 100%. And if your eyes are looking through it, I don't see how that's, you know, I don't see how a stabilizing is an ethical. I don't think that's an ethics issue.
Yeah.
Period.
I know we've done some ethics stuff again. I really want to do another ethics podcast with you about glassing stuff because those are really fun, and I got a lot more thoughts now that I've. Yeah,
there's there's so much stuff out there with thermals. I mean, people are asking about thermals all the time, and there's so many gray areas in states, and it's just so that's just a whole nother path. Yeah. But yeah, do I think that's a problem? No, I don't.
Yeah.
Personally.
Ooh. This one is from our very own open country hunter, Brian Campos himself.
Oh, I love it. Camp Daddy.
Camp Daddy. What is your favorite scope reticle and why?
Oh, man, I typically like pretty simple. I try to keep things clean. I don't know. I think there was a day that maybe I was one of the first people to shoot one of the Swarovski 4Ws. And I say the 4W because the 4W is patterned after the original, kind of the German number 4. And if anybody doesn't know what that is, the number 4 on the 12, there's typically just a hairline. And then it's got basically it goes from thin to thick crosshairs on the 3 and the 6, or I'm sorry, 3 and the 9, and then on the 12, or on the 6 rather. So you've got this. It kind of creates what I like to call as a pocket. Yep. I mean, just take out the heavier line on a regular duplex, and that's a German number 4. Zeiss and Swarovski and some of the like Collis, Schmidt and Bender, those companies had done those for years. I've always really liked that as a general, kind of open reticle. I'm not huge on the Christmas tree stuff.
That's what I was going to ask if you like the Christmas tree. I enjoy it.
I get it. I understand the purpose, and I know what it can do.
Probably for 90-some%, maybe not 90, maybe 70-some% of people. It's too much.
If you like it and you get it, and it doesn't confuse you, I would tell you that's great. And I think for hold calls and all that, there's a whole bunch of reasons why those are successful. I just try to keep things a lot more clean, and that's just the way I prefer it.
I like it. Simple's better sometimes. Yep. Okay, this is from, sorry if I butcher this, Eric Nickum. Zeiss, SFL, and EL8X. Like the size of the SFL, is EL glass that much better? Willing to spend if it is that much better?
I mean, now the way that they're priced, I mean, look, the lightweight and the SFLs are. I think that they're they were basically, for a lack of better terms, I think they were basically created to kind of fill the void in that marketplace with the SLCs going away. Mm-hmm. Truth be told, I think they've done a great job with it. I think that would be a tough call, but at the same time, you're getting an EL piece of glass for $600 less than what it was at one time, and I think that's arguably one of the best pieces of glass in the world. And just to be clear, it's an 8.5 42 EL or a 1042 EL that's $19.99. Mm-hmm. God, it's kind of a tough call, but I am not going to turn my back on the 840s or 1040s. I've been using a set of 1040s, and I don't care what anybody says. That's an awesome piece of glass. Lightweight, compact, small, good eyepieces, ergonomically correct. I mean, they're good. But, I mean, it's kind of hard to walk away from one of the best of the best.
I like it.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably the best value in optics right now is those 8.5s and 1042 ELs at that $19.99.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna roll right into a similar question from. It looks like probably
not knowing that this is good. This is keeping me on my toes.
This is real. This is raw. This is unfiltered. Yes, Cody Nelson at his finest right here.
Well, we'll see.
Okay, this is from some guy NM_JER27. Is Swarovski coming out with 15 NL Pures or 1856 NL Pures?
Man, boy, would I love it. And this is a totally common question.
Mm-hmm. I figured it probably was.
I rant, scream, tell everybody that will listen and anybody that has influence to make those kind of things happen. Yes, I do. I've literally told them everything that any customer's ever asked me for. Mm-hmm. So here's the truth of it. I would be lying to you to tell you that I don't want that, because I do. If you could give me a 15, let me put it this way. What the 1242s did to the 1250 ELs, meaning that you got lighter weight, smaller in a more compact package, but you gave me that magnification and you gave me a wider field of view, sign me up. You give me a 15 with a wider field of view, I'm in. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know what the schedule is. I don't know what's happening. Swarovski's always got stuff up their sleeve, and I would tell you just buckle your chin strap, because I know that there's a lot of stuff going on at Swarovski, and do I know when they're coming? No. But man, by the way, I mean, that question started literally before the first 1242s were ever delivered. So it's a natural progression. I don't see why they wouldn't do it. Yep. And I'm saying this right to the camera right now. I'm begging for it, because I think that would be phenomenal.
Oh, I knew you'd be excited about that question.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Okay, this one's from Jacob Watts. How good is a Vortex mini razor spotter? And then, is the Swaro ATC worth it for twice the price? So basically, comparison between the Vortex mini razor and the ATC.
These are those questions where you got to be careful. I don't want to offend anybody, but here's the deal. I think that, and you and I did that the day we were out together. Yep. I honestly think that the improvements that Vortex made were head and shoulders above the old one. Mm-hmm. To me, it's not even in the same class.
I would agree.
The eyepiece is better. I miss the macro micro, dual focus. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to lie. I wish that was retained somehow, but I get it. I think it is worlds above what they were. But having the experience I've had now with the STC ATCs, I think that's one of the most efficient pieces of glass in the world right now, just by the way it was constructed. And it's not a component. It's not taking an eyepiece and sticking it with the, there's filters that aren't there. I think that moves light as well as anything, that's out there, especially in terms of a compact.
Yep.
I would love to see that technology rolled into some of the newer spotting scopes. Because that would just be that would blow us away. So, to answer the guy's question, I mean, look, there's 3 compacts in my mind that kind of rule the world, and that's the Vortex, and you've got that price point, and then you've got the Kowa 553, 554 that is absolutely a performer, and then you go into the STC, ATC, and I think that's that age-old question. Like, you kind of got to go with what serves you, and I don't have a problem saying that. Look, I will have an STC in my future, but I've been testing the craziness out of that 13 to 39, by 56, and it hangs right in there, bro. I mean, it's good stuff.
Yeah, I think I sent you that optic around that same time in October last year, right?
I have it.
That's when I brought
it's
it
been
over
fantastic, and if you'd like that back, I can actually give it to you. And
fire season's coming up. Maybe I should have remembered that.
No, I actually brought it. I have it. It's in my bag.
Oh, snap! That was a good question. I know I've seen that one.
I'm
a lot
not one of
on
those
the
guys.
Oh, I know you're a good guy.
I return stuff.
The man, the myth, the legend.
Yeah. And personally, I go with the straight anyway.
We're going Jacob Watts again. He had 2 really good questions, so we're going to answer both of his.
Okay.
16 SIG Zulus with Tricer tripod adapter or SLC 15s for high-powered binos on a tripod.
I mean, man, he goes right into my wheelhouse on this one.
Yeah, this is a good one because you got image stabilization, on tripod.
I think if you're going to use the 16s, I don't think you're going to get everything out of them that you can on a tripod. I think they're meant to be up and moving around and in the truck or walking down whatever your purpose is with them. We've established that they're keepers. But if you're me and you'd like to do what I do and stare at infinite amounts of country all day long, I cannot not go with the glass quality and just the overall performance of those the 1556 SLCs. Like, I'm sorry, I can't go against the grain on that one. As much as I've put time behind the 16s now, and much as I look, I was taken a little bit back from that like everybody else was. The image stabilizing 100% works.
I'll definitely say that.
We even put it on a tripod and played with it. And even though it's not as sensitive, because most people don't realize you have to have some inertia basically to get it into operation. So when we found, like when you were panning left to right and, there was that delayed, that movement that would stop it instead of getting like the reverb.
Yeah.
If they continue to bring that along, and they can make it sensitive to the wind and all those other little things, I think that we're just going down a really awesome path right now.
Yep.
So I hope that answers his question, but it's kind of hard to take the coos deer out of coos deer hunter out of me.
Yep. I will say I haven't tried them mounted on a tripod besides for that one time in October when you and I tested it out in the desert, and I'm waiting for Tricer to come out with that adapter so I can put it on the bottom of the battery.
Yeah, that's it. We're not too far. It's right there. Yeah.
So once he does, I'm going to start mounting it as well, because that's the one thing I do kind of miss with my stabilized binos is being able to grid.
Well, you can, and by the way, you can do it right now with ASIAC, and it works great. And so, it's a legitimate thing, this is what I think I truly enjoy with what's going on right now, is that we have so many more options than we used to.
No.
That we can actually make choices And hey, if a guy tells me that he's walking down a spine ridge and that he wants to not set up a tripod and he just wants to be, hey, I'm great with that. That I think you should do that, and those binoculars will be phenomenal for it.
Yep.
I think there's trade-offs.
There's trade-offs for sure.
So, personally with me, like the 6 hours, like I'd take a 10-30 because I think that's the one I would use handheld most. And I think that would lean into what I do.
Yep.
So,
And I'm the guy who just, those 16s, you can't get them out of my hands.
More power.
And I don't think I'm ever going back non-stabilized. I think I'm fully
I get it.
Done. Stabilized for life.
I don't, there's no, I just think we're heading to that age where this is going to become more of a thing.
Yeah, and like I said, once I'm able to mount on a tripod, because that's one thing I do miss is being able to put it on a tripod and do precise gridding. Yes, right now, hand holding them, I can do some precise gridding, but it's like I can lock it on an animal and just like sit there and focus. Well, yeah, I have the extra stabilization mode on them where I can lock. So those little things, and now we're just making a product a little bit more convenient for some people. Like I can grid with it.
100%.
Like we have Tricer and ASIAC already has their system out there. So like you can actually mount these on a tripod.
Yes,
and it works. This guy I'm really jealous about. Matt Ken 2020. Best spotting scope for sheep hunting. What objective size? I hope he has a badass hunt plan.
Man,
that's a tough one.
When someone says sheep hunting, are we?
Yeah, we're talking desert.
Sitting on the desert floor where you're looking up and you may be driving spot to spot, or if he's sheep hunting.
Well, so let's assume he's talking Alaska sheep, like he's hunting dolls.
Yeah, I mean, if he's, I don't know. I mean, I'm pretty sure that Brendan Burns is carrying a 95 millimeter. He's like, I want to know every piece of information I can before and he was one of the first guys that I ever heard say that. I'm like, you know what, right on. Yeah. And to be a backpacker and to be as 100%, committed to it that he is, he's like, nope. He's like, give me the size. And I'm not going to tell you that I don't follow along with that. Pretty much, if I just had to I'm going to go middle of the road because I really, really appreciate the STX 85 that I've been carrying. I think that's one of the most efficient kind of do everything pieces of gear out there. And I think if a guy, can tolerate it, I think it's going to help him in the long run. So I would tell a guy anywhere between 65 and 85, I think, when you got to really pick out detail and age class is a thing. And I would tell you to take as much glass as you can. And I know that there's people that are going to be like, oh, 65 STC or the lower stuff. And I think that's great. I think there's a place for those too. Yeah. You're also talking about what kind of distances are we talking? Exactly. Because on those compacts, you only get to, go to that 35 and 40 power or magnification. And so, is that enough to see what you need to see at on an age class, or when you're age classing your sheep. So now, if we're on the desert floor, it's big dog. I'll take the 115 all day long. Yes, all day, every day. Yeah. He had a follow-up question too, and we kind of answered it already, so we won't go long depth, but give me your thoughts really quick. Are NL Pures worth the extra money over the ELs? Percentage-wise, I think the glass quality is just a little bit better. And when I say a little bit, when we, I don't know, when I went and first tested them with Tom and Joe, and we had them with a resolution card, and it was pretty factual that we all agreed that the glass quality was just slightly better. On the Pures? On the Pures. And when I say better, I don't know, is it 1%? Is it 2%? Maybe it's 3%. But there was a note that you could see things that were telling. But I think the whole package, when you get to the field of view, again, I think when you can have the same magnification and you can open up the field of view, I think that allows for, your eyes to take in more. Yep. And allows you to really search and allow your eyes to do what kind of naturally they're doing, anyway. Yeah, I mean, I think they're worth it, but I'm not gonna not take an EL if someone just said, hey, you have a choice, like I'm not gonna, if someone just says, oh, you get to keep the ELs, I'll be like, okay, you're still there.
Yep.
But for someone to have to go to spend that extra money, he's got to make a decision on is that important to him or not. And for me, it is.
Perfect. This is going to be a similar question again, but he's comparing two different optics here. Bobcat 406, and I will say that the Montana Grizzlies are way better than the Bobcats. Sorry. If a guy was looking to run lighter weight spotter, is the Razor 1339 by 59 worth it, or would it be better to have the extra weight and go up to a 65?
Again, these are like those questions like, what do you want? So the way that because I've been having this conversation with compacts so much, so think of it this way. If we would agree upon that anything below a 2 millimeter exit pupil, you're basically starting to diminish what everything starts to go down. Like, so when you take the magnification and jack it up to 60, your exit pupil is super small and that you've got a diminished picture, right? So if we would all agree that 2 millimeters is anything below that, you start to get that effect, okay? And it's fairly noticeable.
Yep.
So let's just agree that 2 millimeter exit pupil is the constant. Well, when you're at 56 millimeters, you're at 28 power. When you're at 65, you're 32 and a half power for magnification.
Okay.
When you're at 80 millimeters, you're at 40 power. So you see where I'm going? So you're getting more power, more magnification, and your exit pupil still staying the same. Theoretically, you're going to be able to see that animal more definitively through those magnifications.
Yep.
So what he's asking is really, to me, what it means. Do I want to look at something at 28 power, or do I want to look at it at 32 power?
Yeah.
So does that 4 magnification make a difference? Maybe. Is he digiscoping? Is he needing more light to the camera, to the eye?
Yeah, or is he backpack kind of looking to shave some weight and can sacrifice some light?
All of those things matter. Like I just talked to a guy, an hour ago that literally was asking the same question, and I said, "This is the decision. Do you want less footprint in your pack, less weight in your pack, realizing that you're going to get less technical performance?" Or do you want, he's like, well, I really like digiscoping. Okay. Yeah. Well, digiscoping typically means you need more light and more, you need more light to the camera. So you're probably going to get better, resolution and clarity if you have a bigger objective lens. So I think it's just about performance versus, weight and, compact.
Yeah.
It's my thoughts.
Okay. This is another really good one. NV Oren asked this question. If you could only have one optic for hunting out west, what specific optic would it be? And I'm going to guess he's meaning binos versus spotter. Let's just answer it that way. If you can only have one. Oh man,
I've been keyholed on this a few. It would be like the one that just screams to me is a 1242 NL Pure. Only because you're getting magnification with the same field of view as a 10. And I think that's one of the best do everything pieces. And it's why, I spend every day answering questions about the 1242s. There's no doubt in my mind.
Would you ever suggest someone to make that decision and just have a spotter and not bring binos?
That's really tough because I lean so hard on using a tripod and being able to scan and, yes, I can handhold the 12s and do fine with those, but I use a tripod and with a spotting scope, you're pretty much relegated to a tripod.
Yeah. Then you have to glass, unless you have a BTX, you're glassing with one eye the whole time.
And I think they're horribly, the eye fatigue and everything that goes along with that. Most people don't realize that our brain functions and we see things in a pair. So, and it's just the way that we do. And I would tend to not go with the spotting scope.
Yeah, perfect.
I would go binocular.
I knew that was going to be your answer, and I just wanted to toss it out there as a comparison.
I mean, and by the way, that's the question that we get so much from the East, is everybody thinks, I got 10 power binoculars, I have to have a spotting scope, and I don't necessarily think that's always true. Mm-hmm. Like, I think you could get a pair of 1856 UHDs, put them on a tripod. I think you'll absolutely wow yourself on how much more game and what detail you can see. Mm-hmm. Yep. Just a thought.
Yeah, nowadays you can digiscope through binos really easy too. So if you need to digiscope, and you can still use digital zoom on your phone to record a kill shot or whatever. So yeah, there's options there. Ooh, this one's good because you guys recently did a lot of looking through this. You and Mr. J. Scott. It's from Tanner Yellowhair. STC Big Eyes. His thoughts after spending some time behind them, and how do they compare to other big eye setups?
First off and foremost, they're probably the piece of glass that honestly surprised me the most. I wouldn't say I was negative towards them.
We had a lot of conversations, you and I, about them.
First and foremost, you need to know that, like, Adams Adapters has done a phenomenal job with putting those together. And I mean, the work that he's put into that is tireless, and he's really done a great job with that. So kudos to him. Here's the thing with them. First of all, if you have an IPD that's below, I think it's IPD is interpupillary distance.
Explain it, yeah.
And that's basically how close your eyes are together. So
interpupillary distance?
Interpupillary distance, or pupillary distance, but it's typically IPD.
Yep.
So my thing is that you need to know that they only go down to like a 2.56. So there's a lot of people that if you have to squeeze your binoculars together, there's a lot of people that cannot use the STCs. That's first and foremost. Jay Scott can't use them. Dark Holborn can't use them. Those are like some of my go-to dudes. I mean, those are.
Do you want to explain how someone could get that measurement? Because I've had to do it, I believe, when I had to get some new glasses a couple years ago. So they would know if it would work or not work for them. The easiest way for me
to do it, and like how I kind of, when I set those STCs up, for me, I took my 15s out, and I got them perfectly set on the way that I would glass with them. And then I literally measured the center of the pupil, the lens, the ocular lenses to the center. And that was my number.
Gosh, Cody, you're always full of some freaking gems.
It's not rocket science. You just need to kind of figure out. And then you kind of have to, at that point, figure out what it is. Now, there's a video on how to do that. There's all kinds of things that we can do with that. But to get to the nuts and bolts of it, I didn't know the value of what that pairing was going to be, because I'm thinking, well, it's only 17 mag on the low end. And really, quite frankly, you're lucky if you have them collimated all the way through the rotations, and with such a high quality product, hopefully everything works right, everything's good to go.
Yeah.
I was completely surprised and blown away by them. I think they're incredible. I think their wheelhouse is between 20 and 25 power.
Okay.
Like, if I were going to use them and just set them up today, it would be 20 magnification, maybe 25. I spent 6 evenings looking through them at length, more than 2 hours in an evening. Mm-hmm. I got a lot of weird looks and people that were on the trails, and there's a desert area that I use for that. You've seen the pictures,
yep.
But I mean, there's a lot to kind of go over here. I don't know how in depth we want to get, but I'm going to do the best I can.
Yep.
And so here's the thing: if you were looking for versatile, meaning you want to be able to turn it from 17x and turn it to 20 or 25 or even 40, and they will work at 40. Mm-hmm. and be at 5.5 pounds? Because remember, most of the big eyes are all, well, I mean, so just take the BTX, you're at 6 pounds and 95. BTX 115, you're at 7 3/4 pounds. And then, you know, you get into the 65 twins from Swarovski, you're now at, you're almost 8.5 or 9 pounds. And then, you know, the doctors, you're at 10 or 11. Mm-hmm. And then the Koas, you're at almost, I think it's 13. So the fact that you're getting all that in a 5.5 pound package, I think it's just over 5.5 pounds. It's pretty awesome. Mm-hmm. The alarming thing that I found out of it is that even through the 56 millimeter objectives, I expected more fall off in terms of performance than it got, and I got to admit they hung right in there, and they did pretty awesome even when you turned it up to 35 and 40 power. Now, here's the caveat to them. You know, you got the IPD issue, and I know that there's going to be people that are, you know, what do you do after 40 magnification? Mm-hmm. And so this becomes that question of like, is this a tool that I use all the day, every day, or is this a tool that I use when I'm just in that search mode and I'm trying to find pockets of game, you know, much like we would use the BTX for? You know, that's got to be a personal question. Yeah,
because that's, not to go on a side tangent, but when I got to borrow a I don't know if it's fully a pre-production model, but before they were released of the Swaro ATC, took it on a hunt, shot that mountain lion.
Right.
Digiscoped with it, looking for mule deer. I realized I was left wanting more power. I know I have to sacrifice that with smaller optics, but like that 40 power to me and how I normally glass super long distance, I want to be able to zoom more. And I know, like, that's why when I take a BTX, I'll also take the ATX eyepiece a lot of times too, because I want to be able to crank it up a little bit higher. You know, I can swap back and forth.
Yeah. I mean, Brady, that to your point, when Zeiss and Swarovski both allowed you to go above 60, you know, that max magnification of a 60x, mm-hmm. I mean, that was ginormous.
Yep.
That was a huge leap for us, because not only were they allowing you to go above the 60 power, the objective lens allowed you to do it with really good eye box and the easiness of looking. Yeah. I mean, the exit pupils were still good. So there's going to be people that are like, well, I want more detail than 40X allows me to get. I know, I've been there and done that with 32, you know, the Koas, and I've always thought that 32 power looking through both eyes would be about the equivalent of looking through maybe 38 or 40 through a spotter. Mm-hmm. So my question is that I think some people are going to have to answer that question for themselves.
Yeah, it's a hard thing to determine. Like, what's the best optic for you?
Like me, I absolutely love the STC, you know, performance, and I will have an STC in my bag. But now I'm not going to lie, it's got me thinking like, man, I use this so much for searching, mm-hmm. and I love scouting, and I love, you know, even when I don't have a tag, I love just being in the woods checking stuff out. It was a pretty awesome piece, and I know there's going to be guys that flip to it simply because of the size and the weight. I think that's awesome.
Can you give me a rough idea what the price would be for an STC, Adams adapter, dual setup?
I mean, you're basically looking at around, I think if I did the math right, it's about $5,650, somewhere in there.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a pretty big chunk of change.
Yeah.
So again, you know, there's been a lot of guys that have switched to this, and I think it's awesome, and I think everybody should do what's right for them. I think, you know, I wanted to do what I did because I'm the guy who has to answer everybody's questions.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I just wanted to put myself through the paces and, you know, and really have, you know, firsthand knowledge of it. Mm-hmm. I was skeptical at first, and man, if you get them collimated, which, you know, it's been made super simple. I mean, there's demarcation, there's marks on both sides. Once I got them right, it was right.
Yep.
And it was good stuff. So incredibly efficient piece of gear. And by the way, we're pretty close to having them in the gear shop. So
that's, you heard it here first.
Yeah, I just Adam and I were texting last night, and I've texted them this morning again, and so they're pretty close to being in the gear shop. So
yeah, do you remember all the conversations we had on the phone? We probably spent like hours talking about this exact thing.
Oh yeah,
like you and I when we first heard about it.
Yeah,
we were chatting quite a bit in the evenings
because the numbers didn't compute everything. And so now here's the other thing is the guys who own the BTX and look, I did 2.5 hours with a BTX 85 right next to the STCs, the twins. Then the next night I went out and did the exact same thing and did the BTX 95 versus them, at 35 magnitude. So it was 30 and then 35. And then I did the 115s the next night. There's some color variation. There's some interesting facts going on there with that. If you're still using a BTX in a 115 or a 95 or an 85 or 80, 85, with the 30 power, that's still a completely viable option that is absolutely worth it. Yep. Now, again, it just comes down to what system you want to put together. So the STCs are versatile within their own package, but I'll tell you the other thing that I'm not getting rid of. I'm not getting rid of my 15s.
Interesting.
I mean, look, I loved them at the 17X was super clear and easy to look through, but I'll take the wider field of view.
Yep, that's a good point.
I mean, and they were brighter. Not horribly brighter, but they were, slightly brighter. So, again, you got to figure out what works best for you.
Yep.
But do I think the STCs are here to stay? Absolutely.
Perfect. And this next one's an interesting one. The Wood Chopper. Great Instagram handle name, by the way. Great. So he actually submitted this to GOHUNT, and I just pulled it up, and he actually sent me a personal DM as well, which I'm definitely, he sent me last night. I'm going to respond to it with my opinion on this as well, but I want to hear your thoughts too. 12 or 16s for SIG Zulu 6, main set to carry on chest. Field of view specs are roughly the same. What would you go with, 12s or 16?
For me, it's the 16s. Now, in the country that I hunt and the things I do, 16s hands down.
And you're mostly talking about desert
and the reason is because the field of view, it's not slightly different. They're exactly the same.
Yep.
I don't know how they did that. I don't know why they did it, but when you do the calculations of degrees, I'm telling you right now that it's 199.5 feet.
Yep.
And so for me personally, I would just rather take the magnification and have that at my disposal. And because I'm not, now you could say, well, what about the exit pupil? Well, at the times and things that I would use them for, personally, for me, that I would rather take the 16s. The one being brighter versus the other would not, that wouldn't be my first go-to on that one.
Cool.
I think you're getting so much out of the 16s that, we found those deer that day, with the 16s easily, and I wouldn't do that. Yep. For me, again, I always kind of go back to this on the Zulus, image stabilizing Zulus. For me, it's 1033s or the 16s.
Wow.
So, and then there's that I've had a couple guys that were bench shooters. They got the 20s. They don't really need, gathering. They don't really, they need the magnification. They want to look at the hole. Yep.
And I'll throw my personal opinion on there too. So I looked long and hard when, the previous version of the Zulu 6s came out.
Oh, right. If I
was going to go 12s or 16s and whatever it was, and then the new one, 12, 16s. And I thought the 16s were perfect. And after using them now for, I don't know how long I've had these now, 3+ years I've been using 16s. There's not been a mountain that I've ever looked at where I felt like I was limited with my 16s. Yeah, if I get in some tight canyons, 16s is a lot.
Canyons,
I have to grid a lot more.
Right.
But I'm also seeing more detail too.
Sure.
Which I appreciate. And I love being able to handhold a 16 power, which is amazing. When I hand a pair of 16s to a friend, I'm like, hey, flip that switch right now. And look how far I'm glassing.
Yeah.
Like we have to go hike over there now because I'm glassing too far away most of the time. But I think it's a perfect power on the image stabilization for the Western hunting I do. And I'm talking about, for me personally, mule deer, bear. Perfect for those two.
I would tell you that the only times that I would just choose a 12 outright is if the guy said that he spent a lot of time under canopy.
Yeah.
Where, things were dark and he needed that bigger exit pupil. Yep. I get it. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. But for me, we sell way more of the 16s than we do anything else.
Yeah.
And I think I don't even think the jury's out. The jury is out, and they've handed their decision. We sell 16s more than anything else, period.
Yep. I'm never getting rid of my 16s.
So.
Okay. That was a good question.
Great question.
Okay, here's a good one. Here's one I'm just throwing you some random curveballs, Cody.
Do I have the patience to sit back and wait?
This is another good Instagram handle. Cookie Monster. And it's Cook and then IE Monster.
Gotcha.
Opinions on Maven?
I don't know. Maven's an interesting company. I think they did a great job doing their own thing, customization. But, those glasses, I've compared them next to Vortex. I've compared them next to the SIGs. And, for a company that's buyer direct, let them do their thing and whatever. I don't think they just outperform anything else in that same price range or whatnot. I'm not trying to knock anybody, but I just know that those components and all that stuff comes from the same places, and it's just another way of doing business. And if they work for you, hammer down and have fun. So, sure. I don't think that's a knock on anybody. It just is what it is. So, thank God we have choices, right?
We have choices. Yes, we do.
So,
here's a good one. I've been saying that a lot. They're all good questions. I gotta stop saying that.
This is.
I read the question before I tell it to you, and I'm like, dang, that's a well thought out question.
This is like a day for me on the phones on steroids, right? Like, they're just coming at you, but this is what makes my job interesting.
I'm already reading ahead too. I can't wait to ask you the next one, but we're gonna go this one first. Nick Brown, 98. Do rifle hunters carry separate tripods for glassing and shooting, or use the same one?
This is such a thing right now, and oh man, so here's the thing, and I think what's happening is, I think you have different schools of thought. I think you have, people that are geared one way versus the other. In terms of they come from the shooting side of things, so they want the bigger, heavier, better, and look, this is what I come back to. Are you a glasser first or a shooter first? Because for me personally, there's not a single tripod that I have carried or owned that I could not use as a rest. Mm-hmm. And had a pretty good setup to where I can make it work.
Yeah.
And I would just tell you that, because by the way, this is probably lately, one of the number one questions that I get right now. Mm-hmm. I do not think you have to carry two tripods to shoot from, because you have that, the trains of thought that people are coming from is you have that PRS, that NRL, that shooting schools, and where maybe they're not as concerned about packing them or lugging them into the mountains.
Right around a side by side.
If you want to carry when it's compacted, a 30-inch tripod with big fat legs on it, knock yourself out. Mm-hmm. I think a guy should do whatever he does to make himself successful.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not judging you it's not my way of doing it, but that's not necessarily right or wrong. This is not how I do it.
Yeah.
I will tell you that I just think that people need to get outside and think a little bit. And I think mostly they need to go shoot from different ones.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean just, like outside the truck, like get off on an off-camber hill. And you can do it with your big game rifle. You can do it with 22s. You can do it. You can practice a number of ways. But I think what happens is that, like for me, I want to use a 3.5 or 4 pound tripod. I want a good head on it. And we can get into the ball head versus fluid head because that's a whole nother thing. And I just want the ability, I use a shooting fork most of the time. And I know that there's people that go, oh, well, you should be using Arca Swiss or Picatinny. You know what? I think a person should use whatever they feel comfortable and whatever allows them to do what they do. Because, the times that I've been able to shoot successfully off of a tripod haven't caused me a problem.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't less accurate.
Yep.
So, I would just tell somebody, I think the most important part is having the parts and the tools that allow you to do what you do. I don't go anywhere without a shooting fork that's got a plate on it that I can slip in and out of my tripod head.
Yep.
If I'm hunting with my kids, I almost always have a shooting vise. The Triclops is my favorite. Mm-hmm. Cade's been doing a great job of that for years, and I used to not like them, and then I tried them, and I'm like, Cade, by the way, hey, I love the Triclops. Like, how do we make this work? And so I've been using those. I think guys just they come from one school, then they trying the other, but I'm a glasser first, so I want whatever's going to make me and help me be the best glasser I can be.
Exactly, glasser first. That's a good way.
Because I'm probably glassing 99% of the time when it comes to it.
Yeah, I will say on this, I don't do a lot of shooting with my rifle off tripod and hunting. I practice trying to do it just in case I need to. And I know I got a DM a while ago about do I shoot my 300 RUM off some of these lightweight tripods. And I actually have practice with the Tricer BC and the LP panhead.
Yeah.
And I can take my 300 RUM, which is 14.5 pounds.
Yep.
And I can shoot off that just fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I might have to limit my distance a little bit, but I can shoot off it if I need to. If I need to get a little higher, I can make it work.
I think people would be surprised if they try it.
Yeah.
Because now, I will say this. If you are a guy that is going to take a 12-pound rifle and you're going to forward mount it, meaning your Arca Swiss or your Picatinny or whatever is on the fore end of your gun, and you're going to have it basically pendulum, like it's locked in position and unsupported in the rear end, because
that's where you get in trouble.
A lot of these tripods will not support that.
Yep, and that's why I prefer a full Arca rail all the way back to the mag.
And I think that you want to be able to balance it. I think it's all about what makes sense. And I personally, like with the Triclops, I like to mount it just under the bottom metal or just in front of the bottom metal because it's where I feel I get the most out of it.
It's a good balance. Yeah, you don't have to do as much supporting in the rear.
And again, this is just coming back to, I don't care what you settle on, practice with it.
Yep.
Because I will tell you that the most returned items that I've ever had and the ones that people get the most frustrated with is the ones that they didn't practice with that are to blame for their not using it and knowing what it did in the field.
Yeah. Perfect.
So I that's a conversation that literally I think people need to call in and talk with and kind of walk you through it, because I think people need to be creative in the field. I think they need to look at their surroundings. I think they need to somewhat know that where you're going to be hunting or glassing, are you shooting from that spot, or, do you think you're going to be able to get prone?
Yeah.
What about, I've told this story 100 times, but I'll just briefly get into it. You got a guy that's trying to put this big contraption up, and he's trying to get everything together, but yet he's got a bipod on, and he's got a 1,000-pound boulder sitting next to him that's as flat as a pool table.
Yeah, just go.
Why are you not just leaning across the top of it and doing that?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Be creative.
Yeah.
I mean, because shooting off that boulder, that's like shooting off a bench.
It really is. Yeah.
Like it doesn't get any better.
Mm-hmm.
So all I'm saying is that think about the situations, think about what's around you, take a look. Be creative.
I like it.
Yeah. So I hope that helps. And I answer that question literally multiple times a week, and I'm happy to go through it. And again, my way is not the only way. It's just what works for me, and I will help people do whatever they feel they need to do.
Love it. But this one, kind of touched on this one again, so we'll keep this one short. It's from The Other Landon. He says, hot take. The Zeiss SFL might be better than the NL Pure for best bino.
I don't know that the field of view is not, on the field of view, no. Glass is pretty awesome. I'd have a hard time doing that, but I've never directly compared them side to side. I'm always willing to check it out.
Perfect.
I don't know if I answered a question or said that maybe there's a moment where I test the two, but I have no problems conceding the fact that the 1040s are an awesome piece of glass. They're lightweight and they got a wide field of view. So I think, yeah.
I like that answer. Well, this one's from H.J. Green. And again, we kind of touched on this one a little bit earlier, but now we're talking about elk. So we'll just keep it short.
Sure.
Sig Zulu 6, 12s or 16s for the Elk Mountains.
Again, I think it just comes down to that, I talk to so many people and they'll go, oh, well, it's so treed and so, canopy where I'm at. Well, then go 12s. But if you've got distance and open spots and you want to see from a far distance into those trees, then maybe the 16s. But I think it more comes down to is a guy trying to be more versatile or not.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that helps.
Yep, that was good. This is from James 1506. NX8 versus Mark V for hunting.
Well, okay, so first of all, the NX8s, like the 2.5 to 20 by 50, like I don't know that there's a better power range for me. Mm-hmm. I'm not really big into the 25s and like the 4 to 32. I'm not saying I wouldn't I'd like one. But I just don't know that I would fully ever use it all the way into the 32. But I know some people who do it. Brando's a big power. Brando loves power, right?
Yep.
So I think whatever makes sense for you and you want to use it, do it. Mm-hmm. Look, the Mark V's are, those are awesome scopes. They're built tough and tanks too, like tanks too. I don't know that, glass wise, I think you're kind of barking up the same tree. So, gosh, I've never been, man, it's kind of a good comparison, but I would have a hard time, me personally, not going with the NX8 only because I love that power range.
Oh, range, okay.
That magnification range, that 2.5 to 20 or the 4 to 32, it kind of makes it for me. But, and I can get those in a first or second focal plane, whereas you're more relegated to the first focal plane and the Mark V's. But don't kid yourself about the Mark V. Mark V is a good, tough scope, been around long enough, and it's been put through the paces, and I think you'd be successful with either one. How's that for politically correct today?
That was good, Cody. That was good. This one's from a guy I might murder his last name, so I'm sorry if I do. Parker Hoschneck. ST-124 is the best. Thanks, Cody. So, Sue ST-124.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's just a great kit. I mean, it's just kind of a do everything kit that I think if you want stability, but want still in a lightweight, fairly small package, I think that does an awesome job.
Yep, I've been running that same setup for a long time.
Yep, do everything. ST-124s, and by the way, the ST-125s are just slightly smaller, and you've got 5 leg lengths versus 4 leg lengths, and equally is good. I prefer the 124.
Yep.
But you're welcome, by the way. That I love helping people.
Yep. I always love those ones, and they're always really appreciative, and thank you on all your advice. This one's from Will Allen. What is the best spotting scope for under $1,200?
I really do enjoy the Pro Guides. And as much as I want to say this, like the compact spotter, the 13 to 39 certainly has, it has a grip on me because it's been doing pretty good. But I think if a guy wants, that bigger body, more power, I would take a strong look at the either the Viper, the Vortex Viper, in the 80 mil, or do the SX 4 Pro Guide. Yeah. I mean, those are fantastic pieces, and I think anybody would be happy with those.
Okay, another one here from.
Brady, I'm just amazed that we've gone through, and you still have pages left.
Oh, I got pages.
I know.
Pages.
Keep them coming, bro. Keep them coming.
This is a good one. I would skip it because this guy's asked a lot of questions.
Okay.
Mr. Brian Campos. I'm skipping one of his other ones. He wants to know.
He told me when I walked in this morning, because he's been gone for a couple of days.
Yeah,
he told me, he goes, I threw a couple in there because I want to know these. And I'm like, okay.
And I think this one's really good. Again, I said that a lot. Sorry. What are 2 bino options to consider for youth hunters on a budget?
Oh, I mean, that's man. You've got let's see here. You've got the Vortex Diamondback HDs, right? Mm-hmm. And look, my kids growing up with me with all the glass options that I've had over the years, I still think you should give don't get them the blister pack thing where it's hard to focus and you can't hardly see through it. I always think that $250 range is a really good place with a lifetime warranty. So like Vortex Diamondbacks, Loophole Alpines, I would go with something. I will tell you that I think my personal opinion about is give kids a pretty decent field of view. And when you do that, I think it really helps them kind of take in the full space. When you give a kid too much magnification, the coordination, if you watch them do it, and when they back up and they try to look at the mountain and go, oh, where was I looking? It really screws them up. So when you give them a field of view to where they can kind of look at the mountain and identify, well, yeah, that looks just. So then they can point or do. I kind of watched that be a thing a few times, and I think that's really key is give them field of view. Because by the way, their eyes are so good and they're so efficient at light transmission and everything, they can see really, really well.
Gotcha.
And so like I think a 1042, even an 842 are awesome for kids, in those brands.
Okay. This one is from Riley IAC on Instagram. Over time, it seems you've recommended the NL10s over the 12s. Have the 12s not aged well?
Yeah, I mean, like if I were going to choose something today, like with my given setup, I'd choose 10s. Now, remember earlier we just talked about 12s, but that was my only option. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's always that trade-off, but I think the 10s have been incredibly consistent. Quite frankly, I think the 12s have really aged well. It's still the number one question I get. But I think what has happened is over the years, people have started to really realize that the 10s are, you know, I mean, 399-foot field of view. And I think they've done really well. I think that's what he's asking.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the 12s I thought the 12s have aged incredibly well.
Okay. All right.
I always love when I can feel you gearing up to ask me one.
So this one's from Keegan Faulkner. I love
Keegan. He's such a good dude.
I'm not sure you're the best person to answer this question. All right, I'm just going to preface with that.
No, that's fine. Absolutely.
I'm joking. Best all-around optic setup for technical skill glassing, such as hunting coos deer. So that's why I was joking right there. You're the best person to ask for this question.
Look, and he's such a good dude. He's a guide in Arizona, and he's all in, 100% all in. Very dedicated and very passionate. And so, look, I think there's different ways to look at it, but I'm still typically a 3-piece person, if you will. Mm-hmm. I like an 8 or a 10 on my chest. I like a 15, 18, you know, to tripod mount, and I want the ability to turn up the power. Now, I for my own personal self, if I was leaving the truck today and I was going to take a system, I literally would have a set of 15s with me, and I would have an STX 85. That would be my go-to for just the, you know, really kind of just being versatile. Mm-hmm. But I spend a stupid amount of time with my BTX 115. Like, I mean, I find a lot of animals at distances that are ridiculous. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not judging them. I'm not saying, oh, that's got a kicker off the left. I mean, sometimes I do.
Yeah.
But look, I'm looking for pockets of deer mm-hmm. or pockets of elk that maybe you just can't see when you're right next to the mountain. Mm-hmm. I'm typically trying to back up and look away and look at pockets, and then, you know, kind of looking at the areas that I want to go hunt or want to go up into. And so I'm always going to have big glass like that in my truck or, you know, at my disposal, because, you know, am I scouting? Am I just looking? Am I mm-hmm. just helping? You know, but I love a good 8. You know, like if you take it like a, you know, 832, you know, EL range, and then, you know, you throw a 15 in there, and then with just a, you know, a top-notch spotter, I just don't think I can go anywhere in the world with that and be successful.
I like the excitement in your voice as you answer that question.
Well, and Keegan's, he's just a good dude. So
this next one follows up almost exactly. Like you said something in there. You said like a kit, like 2 or 3 optic kit. And this question is going to be very similar to that. So we don't have to go too in depth again. Luke Willoughby, should you have a quiver of optics for individual hunts, or 2 to 3 that cover any and everything?
Well, this subject comes up all the time now, and I absolutely do. And look, I understand that there's guys. I've been in the optics business now for 15 plus whatever years. Look, I have a lot of optics. Mm-hmm. I do my best to try to not sell optics. Because I mean, I've got 3 kids, blah, 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 you know, all that stuff. But even for myself, there's certain times that I'm going to a certain thing or place or area that I want to use a certain optic. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's kind of like a golf club. They get 14, you know, the PGA says you can have 14 clubs in your bag, right? Mm-hmm. Well, you know, that's why you get to choose between a 56 loft and a 50 or whatever. Yeah. You get to use whatever. And that's my whole thing is, so yeah, I would tell you that all of that just makes you more versatile. It just makes you better at maybe the one discipline that you're not used to. Mm-hmm. So I love the ability to to kind of use the tool that works best for that given situation. So yeah, I mean, I don't think a guy, I try not to lock myself into just one situation. And I do, I get a lot of customers that call and that are like, oh, I got to sell this and that. I get it. I understand. Mm-hmm. I got to do that too sometimes, but I'm just of the opinion that if you hold on to stuff and you might use it more than you think you do. The key guys, like, think about this. Think about all the tree stand hunters, and then the guys that, now are going out west. And, I get to talk about phone calls. That's a phone call every week. Mm-hmm. Guys that are like, oh, hey, man, I mainly tree stand hunt back east, but I'm going out west now, and I'm going to keep these glasses for what I normally do because, they're really good at field, like 8x42 is pretty common, really wide field of view and super bright. Well, I'm like, well, yeah, you can use those out west too. Most people don't give 8s credit, but they can be successful out here just as easily as something else. I'm like, put them on a tripod. You'll be amazed at what you see.
Yep.
So yeah, I think a guy should
have a little quiver of optics.
Yep.
All right, this one is from Luke Van Landen. Sorry, my brain just didn't function right there. Utah muzzleloader scope options. New 2024 regs, 1X mag, 50 millimeter, question mark. So what basically would be your optic of choice for Utah legal muzzleloader?
Oh, I think that little Freedom.
The loophole
right now is kind of would be.
Was it a Freedom RDS?
Yes. And one I think that's what
the turret on top?
Yep. Why not? Mm-hmm. Yeah, talk about all this fair chase and all these things I unfortunately, I don't know, man. I think we're just at the start of this.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what the future holds.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting.
All right.
Oh boy, here we go. Here's the curveball in the dirt.
Payson Dirk. If you had $1,000 roughly for one optic, what would you get, and why would it be the Zulus?
I don't know that it would be the Zulus, but that 1030 for me, that might just that could be it.
Yep.
So that would be it. Or I get this question a lot. I know got to be tripod mountable. So for me, it'd be a really tight split between the it's kind of a trifecta, right? So there's the Zeiss Conquest HD, the Razor HD, and the new Zulu 10s, the SIGs. Mm-hmm. Those would be my wheelhouse for $1,000. Now, I'm not saying that you couldn't do the 10x30s. Mm-hmm. I could do those, but yeah, that would be my go-to.
Okay. This one's from D Rosa 07. How much magnification?
And by the way, hold on, just so everybody kind of gets into there's also a Leica Trinivit in there. Hmm. So, but the Leicas you can't tripod mount, with a stud, right?
Mm-hmm. These straps.
So it's kind of a little bit more, archaic that way. Mm-hmm. The 10x42 razors, I like them because they're small and compact, and they just kind of have that, smaller than they are feel to them. Mm-hmm. The Zeiss Conquest, I think the glass is fantastic. Edge to edge, everything is good on it. I'm not crazy about the eye cups, but I think they do, right? I mean, I think they do a great job. And then you get to the new Zulu. I think the Zulus are awesome. Ergonomically, they're good. So I just think that I think we just got to kind of pay attention to what's out there. And I think you got to put your eyes behind them the best you can, mm-hmm. and choose the ones that make sense for you. So I hate pigeonholing myself into one deal, but those are the kind of things that I get to answer for people.
Perfect. D-Rose07, how much magnification is needed on a rifle scope to be shooting at 500 to 750 yards?
Yeah, I think a 15, would be my kind of go-to, and 15 to 18 would be, like if you did a 3.5 to 18, or a 3 to 18, or 4 to 16, or something, 4 to 20. But I don't think you'd have to have a lot more than that. You could, but just because you have all that mag doesn't mean you have to use it.
I'll throw the opposite in there. Give me all the power.
Well, and what I like to tell people to do is when you're practicing at those ranges, try it at different magnifications. Because when you jack it up to 25 or 30 power or 32 or whatever you're doing, you'll notice how difficult it is sometimes to keep that crosshair steady. And then I tell people to turn it down until they feel things level out. And I think people find, oh, okay, you know what? I like looking at this versus that.
Yep.
So, but yeah, so I think 15 to 18 power 15, on the top 18? End is a really good, for 500 yards or,
I feel we sell a lot of those too, 15 to 18.
Yeah, it's incredibly popular.
Yeah. Next one, D-Mark 22. Do you feel like the hunting industry is lacking a quote-unquote perfect fluid head?
Ooh. Man, I'm always tinkering and always asking for more. Yeah, I think that's it. The old 701 HDV from Manfrotto was about as perfect as a guy could get. It was maybe just a touch on the bigger side. And when they quit making that, you had all these companies that came out and started basically copying that design. And I think there's some really good stuff out there. I just think that we could be doing things a little bit better that had glassers in mind. And I think that there's some people listening, and I think that they're trying it, like, for instance, Drew at Tricer.
Yeah, that new BP.
He and I spend a lot of time talking about, like, Cody, like, what are you looking for? And yeah, that new BP is an awesome head. And do I think everything is perfect? No. I'm pretty tough to nail down that way. But yeah, I think we're working on it. Like I've asked Sue Ray to change some things.
I remember that.
We'll see where they go with it. I just met with them on last Friday for lunch, and there's some new options coming that I think people are going to really like. But I don't know if they've changed a couple of little small internal things that I've asked for that aren't killing what they're doing. It just would make it better. And you know me, I'm always pushing at that little, we could just have this. Edge. And so, there's some incredibly versatile stuff out there that's got a lot of options, and but sometimes when you have so many options, maybe you lose focus on how smooth something is and how it functions with heavyweight versus lightweight, but can it handle both? And so, yeah, I think that's a really interesting question. That's an awesome question, and one that I truly take to heart. And I'm working on each individual company as about as
I like that you are giving these companies feedback. I do love that.
Yeah,
that you're really trying to make them make it
better.
Product. Yeah,
listen, because I think that there's certain things that because for so long we've been told, oh, you just got to use, what the video head people use, sorry, Cody, for filming. And I get it. I understand. And I don't think you have to buy a $6,000 head to do that. I don't think things have to be that way.
Yep.
I think there's some ways that we can do things to make a few things that are just make us better glassers. Certainly more efficient.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, like I said, that was a really good question.
Yeah.
Our next one, J Watso 02, coming from the East Coast, what's the best combo of optics that you would recommend for hunting out west? And I would assume maybe he doesn't have anything yet.
If I was just helping that guy build a quick little package, I would tell him to get a 1040, 1042. I would tell him to buy a tripod, and I would ask that person if they've used a spotting scope before and what their ultimate goal is. Are they looking for numbers, or are they looking for validation? And so it would either be a high powered optic on the one end, or a small spotter or something that they could to try to keep them versatile.
Yep.
Something like that, some package like that. I think guys rely too much on the spotters, and I think if they would. I mean, a lot of times what I would simply say is, man, if you would just take the glass you have and put it on a tripod, I think you'll be really amazed on what you can see. Because anytime you put something on a tripod, it just extends the usability of that particular optic. It's a force multiplier, and I don't think people give it enough due that way. So, yeah.
This one's for me.
Uh-oh.
I know, I'm scared.
Well, then it's by all means.
This one's from Larry Cahill. What muzzleloader and load did Brady use last year?
That would be a definite you question.
Yep. So that was on my open sight Muzzy elk hunt that I had. It was an Arrowhead Orion package. So it was a 45 cal muzzleloader.
Luke's killing it, brother.
Yeah, Luke built some
Luke at Arrowhead, he's killing
muzzies. So yeah, 45 cal, 300 grain NSR bullets, Blackhorn 209, 115 grains by weight. And I'm going to emphasize that again. That's 115 grains by weight and not by volume. Big difference.
Okay, gotcha.
So people should be aware of that. Shooting roughly 2,500 feet per second. And then I had the Revic Exo adjustable open sight, basically peep turret system on the back of that.
I don't know why you would not want that on your muzzleloader.
Yep. So that was a great setup. I took my bull on, I can't remember what day it was, but phenomenal. I was shooting that a ton. I love shooting muzzleloader.
And what did you tell me?
275, 280, something like that.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yep. So made a great shot on the bull, and happy with all the bullets performed. Happy with the whole muzzleloader.
It's about like shooting at a piece of plywood.
It really is. Yeah. And I was really fortunate too, because there was some snow on the hunt, so it made it a little easier. So I could put the peep sight above it, come down into the bull, and touch it off. The muzzleloader can shoot way better than my eyes can see. That's going to be a limiting factor. Unless muzzleloaders being able to see through that open sight peep setup.
Sure.
But for a muzzleloader, if you're looking at a muzzleloader, that is the muzzleloader to get.
Well, and I think that's one of those things, Brady. Guys gotta. You can't just take it out at 100 and shoot at 100 and go, oh, well, it's good. And you got to shoot at some things at distance and know what that reticle is going to look like.
And you really need to shoot at different colored targets, because when I was out practicing, I was shooting I like to shoot at white targets. I like a white target, white piece of steel with a black dot in the middle. And it's easy to shoot with an open sight.
Right.
But then going to different colored targets, you instantly realize that's actually kind of hard to shoot in a real situation. Like maybe shoot at an orange target, maybe shoot at a brown rock or something like that. Maybe try to simulate what an elk would look like. So like those lighting conditions on just the target is going to make it so you can maybe see that crosshair in your open sight setup, or maybe you should switch a different front globe. Like all that stuff's going to play into it. But yeah, I was actually borrowing Jim from Marsupial. It was his exact muzzleloader. So Jim was fortunate enough to let me borrow it.
There's another guy, good dude.
And then right when I went over there to pick it up to borrow it,
another guy killing it.
Yeah, that muzzleloader's killed a lot of bulls.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I instantly put an order in with Luke for my own personal Arrowhead. So he's building me one right now, and can't wait to get that thing.
Little pew pew.
Yeah. And then the great thing is too, is with that system, the Exo sight from Revic, I can sync all that data up into my SIG 8K rangefinder. So I actually just dial MOA values.
Oh, I got you. Oh, gotcha. Yeah,
because that turret system basically is an MOA cut turret.
Right.
I don't believe in yardage. So I can just dial it all in there. I can enter all the bullet specs, everything in there.
Yeah,
I can go and validate.
Why would you?
Yeah, so it's a perfect setup, and I'm excited to do more open sight mosey hunts. And I'm probably going to try to draw some more muzzleloader tags. I really enjoy shooting a muzzleloader. I like obviously everyone knows I love long range shooting, but I do love getting close, and I love touching off a shot on the muzzleloader, having that smoke go.
There's something pretty cool about an object that heavy and big.
Yeah, muzzleloaders
doing
so
its
fun.
thing.
Okay, so that was a good question. This was for both of us, Cody. I just love Instagram handles. Maybe I need to change mine from just my name to something cool and creative.
I often think that, mine is a little blah, I guess, but
yeah,
some of these guys get really creative.
So this guy's Instagram handle, cream of the crop. This is
okay.
Yeah. How much time do you two spend glassing a spot for mule deer before moving on? I'll let you go first.
Well, I don't always glass for mule deer, but I think it's depending on the area.
Yep.
I think mule deer tend to be obviously more nomadic. I think that in the areas that I do hunt mostly, they can be pockety. But they kind of go, they kind of go where they want to go.
So you're saying they're cooler animals?
And not necessarily. I mean, they're wanderers. They're a little more nomadic. But I think I would typically give a place a solid. Again, am I big picture looking back and looking at a big area, or am I actually in the area where I'm? And I think generally speaking, if I feel like I'm not seeing anything, I will go try to get another vantage point.
Yep.
So it might take me 2 hours or 3 hours to figure that out, but generally speaking, I'm getting another vantage point. It just depends on the area I'm in, and am I focused 100% on mule deer, or am I in a place that's got both, or whatever. But generally speaking, I'm 2 or 3 hours.
Yep. Yeah, my answer could be very similar to that. It's definitely a lot of situational. My long distance glassing, my close distance glassing is a certain canyons. Is there other finger ridges I can go down? I'm big on moving to get other vantage points to glass into the shadows. So, maybe I'm sitting there for 30 minutes, maybe it's an hour, but I like to move. But it could be only 50 yards. It could be 100 yards just to get a slightly different angle. So I look at canyons a little bit differently.
Right.
I could sit all morning in the same spot too, though, in glass. It's like a lot of it to me, a lot of times ends up being just gut feel. Like if I just feel like the topography, the terrain, I got enough, cover, I got enough open areas, like just feels like there should be a big buck in the area. I might stay a bit longer. If I'm going to completely leave an area and move on, like let's say I'm just going to go in a canyon and try to glass it, I like to go get a morning glassing session, glass through the afternoon, get an evening, and then determine that, because I always feel like
100%.
I want to be able to get the full picture. Maybe because some of the bucks I've killed, I've glassed in the morning for. One of my 204-inch deer I killed. It's all about
moving, to those glassing spots where in the afternoon, where
could be a big difference.
Where if they're not up and moving now, where are they going to be in 2 hours?
Yep.
I'm going to switch spots so that maybe I'm more, got my face to the sun, and now I'm looking into the, into the coulees and in places, and and it depends on the situation, depends on the area, but generally, if I'm not seeing what I'm seeing under lighting conditions and using the sun in my favor, now I'm going to switch spots and you
can go the opposite way. Sometimes a deer just wants to be in the spot where you have to glass in the sun.
Yep.
And like I was saying, the point I want to make too, like the 204-inch deer I killed 6 years ago now? Wow, long time ago.
Excuse me, what was that again?
204.
204?
204.
I just want to make make sure we got that in there.
Yeah. So that deer I went to, like if I was just going based off of glassing in the morning and crossing an area off, I would have never killed that buck. Every morning we checked out this little canyon and then saw small run bucks.
Right.
Never glassed in the evening. So eventually maybe I could have said, hey, there's no big deer here. But finally, one time I glassed in the evening.
Caught him.
Yeah. Caught him in the evening. So it's like,
it's nice when you can it's nice when you can, feel vindicated. Like, yep, my instincts.
And it was a spot that just looked. Right. I actually had it marked on GOHUNT Map before as it's a bucky area. It just felt like there should be something there, and that's why I never wanted just to cross it off. I kept returning to it.
There's so much to be said for that, because I don't know. Somebody asked me a question, for something yesterday or whatever, but like sometimes you just kind of look at the places that are like they're deery. They just kind of have that
feel. You have the vibe.
Yeah, there's just something about it, and you go, like, I will be ultra. I don't know. Like I had a buddy use the term, Julius, man. He used the term power glassing like 25 years ago. Mm-hmm. And that's what he was really saying. Like sometimes you're moving back and forth and you're looking and you keep going back to that spot that you just think looks and acts and, just has that home, to a deer look. And you know what? So many times that pays off. Mm-hmm. You're looking all the way around. You're looking at all these kind of different places, but then boom, you go back to that one spot that you kind of went, oh man, I feel like there's going to be a deer there, and it happens all the time. Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I could probably do a 30-minute response to that one, but I'll keep that one kind of as is.
Mule deer, Jesus,
I love those guys so much.
Mule deer, getting after it. Don't get him excited.
I'm really excited now. Oh, okay, Cody. Let's throw another fun one out there. Honker, can't remember, Cowell, we'll say his last part of his Instagram handle. Any hints Vortex releasing a BTX style system like Swarovski has?
No.
You haven't heard any hints?
I've asked for it though. I think it would be really cool. I mean, look, first of all, there's something that needs to be said about that. That's an incredibly difficult system to make.
I bet, yeah.
And remember that you definitively are splitting the light between one tube, and making that happen is incredibly technical, and it has to be efficient enough that it still performs. And so, man, I would absolutely love it. I mean, I think it would be awesome to have another company put something like that together. Because I mean, for me, it's all about the versatility.
Yep.
I want the versatility. I want the ability to make a decision on, what can I use at this point for the rest of the day, or, for only part of the day, or, what's going to make me more, what's going to make me better for this given situation. So, yeah.
Okay. This one's really funny because
but I literally have told 3 different companies that they should be doing that.
I like you voicing your opinion on these companies.
Once in a while, I get it done.
This is an interesting one because Mr. Cody Bohr sitting over there, he didn't ask this question on the DM. He should have, but he actually texted me, was it 3 nights ago, Cody? So this guy's name is Bugle Chaser, who asked this question: are you going to carry Vector X Bino, so Vectronics shooting solutions? Have you looked through them or looked up?
Yeah, I mean, they're incredible stuff, and those are kind of the big dogs.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's not
Terrapin rangefinder.
I'm not saying it's not a possibility, but it we just have to look at that. Is it something that's going to move for us and be in our wheelhouse? So I think it's something that we could certainly look into for sure.
Okay.
But they've been around and they certainly do a great job.
Yes, it's really unique to.
There's no question as to what they do.
The Vector X being able to put a different. Right. You can basically change powers.
And that's why I'm saying there's such an amazing. But we have so many choices. Like right now, I'll be honest with you, I get pelted with everything. That's not the first time I've heard that question, but like I have everybody and their brother right now pounding me about thermals.
Really?
It's ridiculous. Huh. But here's the problem: like some states allow them, some states don't. Some states are more gray than others, and it's just one of those things that we just have to figure out, like, do we want to serve that, that customer or not? And, we've talked about it. And so, as of right now, Swarovski has thermal scopes. Zeiss has thermal scopes. Leica has thermal scopes. And that's just the tip of the eye. I mean, there's so many companies out there, all these hog hunters and where the places that you can hunt, coyotes and stuff at night and predator control. And so there's so many more venues to get into. And I think it's something that, as a company, we have to look at and go, okay, how do we serve the public? And, how do we just serve the demand? Mm-hmm. And, we talked about fair chase. We talked about, hey, look, at a certain level, like I know that there's guys that would say, oh, you can't do that. Look, I get it.
Yeah.
But in some places, hunting at night and trying to kill predators, that sometimes that's the only way to get it done and do it efficiently.
Yeah. So,
I don't know. I try to be pretty open-minded about some of that stuff. I don't know. It's just one of those things.
All right, here's one about the GOHUNT Gear Shop adding a new product. I'm not sure if we have or not yet, so you'll be the person to ask, I guess.
Well, I will do my best.
Tucker Ryan 13. Will GOHUNT be adding Leupold Mark IV HD to the Gear Shop?
Yes. We have just barely started to see them ship.
Yeah.
So I would tell him to keep a very close eye. Matter of fact, I saw an invoice from them last night. I will check that, but yeah, I would tell him to keep a very close eye. Okay. They're on order, and it literally could be any day.
And he did have a follow-up question too. Will GOHUNT be adding Trijicon optics to the Gear Shop? It's
another one. We've talked about Trijicon. Trijicon's been along for a long time. Certainly has always kind of a quality, piece of gear. It's always been that way. I'm not going to say no. I think it's a good company. I think they're doing some really cool stuff. I think to answer this question as to maybe why we haven't to this point is on certain levels, sometimes we got to figure out, are they doing something entirely different than what we already have?
That's a good point.
And again, you could say, well, okay, well then why didn't you just carry the, well, so sometimes, we got to figure out what makes sense for us. Mm-hmm. And so, it's something that they're definitely on that circle of products that we've been looking at. And so I would just say that, I don't know that they're an immediate ad, but they're certainly being looked at.
I'm going to throw you a complete curveball right now on this one. Turner Provost. Why does it hurt my eyes when I look at the sun through my binos?
Don't do that.
I guarantee he's being funny, but
that.
Yeah,
I know. Don't do that.
Yeah, I just saw that one on another page, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I gotta toss that.
Yeah,
toss a little curveball. Don't do that. Okay.
I think that's like a lawsuit kind of like that. Don't do that.
You ever tried to use your optics to like melt an ant?
I've done that with a
magnifying glass.
I've done that with a magnifying glass, but I have not in any way, shape, or form tried to use optics? Optics for that. No.
Okay. That's the little kid in me wants to ask you random questions.
Yeah. Sorry. No, that's. Yeah.
This one's from M. Loudon. Sorry. Compare the top 15X options and why/which is best.
Wow, there's
it's a lot.
So my favorite has always been the Swarovski 15. That's not entirely true. The 1560 Zeiss still holds a very special place in my heart. It's a poro prism. Mm-hmm. The depth of view is much different than on a roof prism piece of glass. So there's that. Okay. Mm-hmm. But in today's binos, the 15 by 56 SLC, you've got the Zeiss 15 by 56 Conquest HD. You have an 18 by 56 UHD. You have the one that I've been really impressed with, that I think performs bigger than what its price tag is the 6 hour Zulu 10. I've been really super impressed with that. And look, if there's any piece of optic out there that like is my wheelhouse, if your 15 doesn't cut the mustard with me, it's really hard to impress me. It has to be easy to look through. It has to focus right and focus easy every time. Tripod mountable's a must. Everything, all those things, and again, I just listed a good portion right there. You got the 15 by 56 GeoVid, that a lot of people buy because they want that long range option. I get it. Look, all of those things being said, I think somebody should do their best to put their eyes behind the optic and really look at the things that matter most to them. All of those optics have, generally speaking, they can have different colors. Like, for instance, Zeiss and Leica tend to put off more of like a blue hue, whereas the Swarovskis tend to be more on a yellow. Which one do you like looking through most of the time? Do I think that, I've heard this question that gets asked, well, if you're in the desert, you should have blues. And look, I have found coos deer, mule deer, whatever, I found them in both environments, and I can't say that it was the color that made it happen. And again, I think that when you get into that, I mean, you're talking about, anywhere from $1,400 to $2,000 or $2,500, right? Mm-hmm. Bottom line is I think you got to go with the one that makes sense for you. Yeah. And for me right now, the 1556 SLC that's the 15 power to me is the workhorse of the West, and they do such a great job. That would be the one that I would choose, but my wife's cousin, Zach, I sold him a set of 1556 Conquests, 5 years ago, and he absolutely loves them to death. Mm-hmm. Finds game with them, does a great job. I mean, they're fantastic. So again, I think it's about finding quality optics, and you guys have heard me talk about this, but the 3 pillars of glassing for me has always been good optics, buy the best you can, put it on a tripod, slow down, be methodical, be purposeful when you glass. I think if guys do those 3 things, it's that whole thing of look, if you had a $500 pair and all you can afford is a $750, great. Just improve whatever you can.
Yeah, those are some nuggets right there.
Just improve what you can. And so, again, but I think it's more valuable to get your eyes behind them and do the best job you can deciding that way. And then we go from there.
Booyah.
God, I was quiet my time because I'm so passionate about the 15s.
I could tell again. Like that's something that's true to your heart.
It's true. It literally is. I've spent more time glassing through a set of 15. I still have my original Dr. Optics. Mm-hmm. They're not even rubber coated. Yeah. And I can still take those out today and have one of my kids or me look through them, and I will absolutely, I feel it's nostalgic, but I will absolutely glass with them and do awesome. So, but yeah, I'm very passionate about that.
You live your 15s. Okay, this one is from AOG_3. Good tripod for spotter/binos that won't break the bank.
God, Suray ST124. I think one of the most underestimated, the T024SK with the A5 head, that kit. Even the the T004, you know, it's $189, you know, kit with a VA5 head on it.
And VA5 is what?
It's like $165 head. And so everybody's like, oh, that tripod's got to be junk. I tell you, it's a good little tripod for what it is. And I think it's a outstanding value. Yeah. I that's, you know, you got to at least look at that, you know, that system.
Ken.
The VA5 head being the common denominator there, by the way.
Yeah, the VA5, it's solid.
It's a performer.
I can use it on my BTX 115. I can use it on a lightweight setup.
Yep.
Smooth.
Yes,
Combo
sir.
that with a little AZIAC carbon fiber handle on the side.
Shave a little
bit of weight.
100%. Yes, sir.
Winner, chicken dinner.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, Cody, this is another question for me. Tanner Lunsman, why does Brady use Swaro over Koa for spotters? So, here we go. The main reason I like the modularity of the new Swaros.
Yeah.
I really enjoy, obviously it's going to break my bank a lot more if I have different optics set up, but that's why when, you know, whatever it was 4 or 5 years ago, and I was like, hey, Cody, I want to, I need a set of big eyes.
I remember that conversation well.
And I had a lot of talk with you of what I should do. You know, should I do a twin? Should I do this? And like, I wanted a set of big eyes. And then I was at this point where I was like, okay, I know I want a BTX. I was like, well, now I have to decide what objective I want. And that's why I went with 115 first to start. It's like, I might as well go big, and I'll carry that thing everywhere. I backpack with it. I'll truck hunt with it. I'll go around in long distance, 3-4 miles away from a little pull off on a road in a mountain area and glass all the way across canyons rather than pigeonhole, so hiking in. But then if I want to, like last year, my bear hunt, I borrowed 65 objective.
65.
And put it on there for spring bear hunting because I don't need the 115. I don't need that weight. I just need it to judge a bear and get digiscope footage of the bear for hunt film and be able to record the kill shot. So I like being able to have basically 4 different spotters in one.
Right.
And I can throw an ATX on there. I can throw the BTX on there. It's modularity for me, and it allows me to do different hunts.
I don't think entirely sometimes people, customers, hunters truly understand like how special the versatility of that is.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, when you take a BTX 115 and you can make it all and go all the way down to, you know, an ATX or STX 65, it truly is pretty awesome. And that's why I've asked other companies like, hey, like, wouldn't it be cool if you could do this? Or, and Koa is
there's phenomenal glass.
Koa is completely underestimated.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure why I mean, in the birding forums, they're off the charts.
Yep.
All you got to do is read the birding forums. And if people really want to know where I spent a lot of time, especially, you know, in the younger, you know, when forums were of even more popularity, I think today, if that's possible, that's where I learned about optics was listening to the birding guys.
Yeah.
That's where I found out about Koa, you know, and then I sold Koa for 10 years and Koa is high. They keep making better little changes to their eyepieces. They keep doing things. And I don't think Koa's done. So I think that, you know, we may see some stuff on the horizon from them. I don't know how long it's going to be, but all I would tell you is that whatever, their glass is phenomenal. The Koa Highlanders are, you know, easily one of my favorite. You know, yes, they're 13 pounds, but that 13 pounds is good.
Yeah, I love looking through those. That's what's basically that's basically sparked my love for big eyes.
Yeah,
is looking through those.
Look, if you just said, "Hey, Cody, I'm going to sit you on a hill, and you're never gonna like this is what I need you to do,"
Mm-hmm.
I would have no problems having the 32 by 82s. Even the fact that they weigh so much is a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Super easy to look through. You give me those and a Manfrotto 502 head with the neck tension, that red neck tension band. That's like, you know, that's an incredible piece of gear.
If I own
super comfortable look through and just absolutely found just a ton of game with that.
If I had land and could have pack goats or llamas, I would probably pick up one of those and make that pack goat or llama carry that in for me.
That's all. That's the only load he has is the tripod and the head that goes with that. Yeah, it's Kowa's awesome piece. I mean, their new 66. I'll tell you the piece that I'm probably most impressed with, above the 553 or 554, is the 66S, the straight.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, what an incredible, just an awesome optic. And the 88's good. The 99 is off the charts good. Cody used that. I mean, you take that out there and start looking at coos deer at 1,000 yards, and it's like you can see the flies on them. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, I get it, but versatility.
That's why I made it.
I was kind of thinking you were going to say that because I just remember that being such a big deal, and it is. Anytime anybody asks me about that system, it's like, well, hey, look, you could buy this and it would be awesome, and I don't think you'd ever be unhappy with it.
Mm-hmm.
But didn't you just tell me that you don't like looking through a spotting scope, that you'd rather have this? So, like, there's just things that just make sense for people.
Mm-hmm. And the way I hunt, like, optics are everything to me. So I'm willing to carry that BTX 115 in there.
100%.
Because I love glassing with two eyes. I love picking apart the shadow, trying to find that big old cagey buck that's bedded down, that's not going to get up. It's not going to walk in the open, because all the small bucks might be out in the open. He just knows if he walks in the open, he's going to get shot, or he's going to get pressured by something. So those tools to me are valuable. And then being able to modularity, adjust something else. And yeah, sure. I'm fortunate that, Mr. Chris Porter has a 65 that allows me to borrow it, because he knows if I borrow it, I'm going to take care of it like it's my own.
Absolutely.
So that's what's kind of been great. Like,
well, I don't know.
If you and I were,
I've had to fix a BTX and an 85 maybe.
That's why I'm scared about letting him borrow my stuff. But yeah, like if you and your buddies, one person could buy a 65, one person could buy a 115, and then on different hunts you could swap.
I just talked to a couple dudes the other day that they have a whole system together.
Yeah, a team.
They literally do. Like, one guy has like a set of 15s, the other guy has 12. I mean, they literally thought about, hey, this is how we're going to do this.
Yeah.
And whatever situation there is, they have the ability to pare it down and use so that they're not doubling up.
Mm-hmm.
So, which I think is, for me it's awesome.
Yeah. So we're already 2 hours over, but I do potentially want to get to maybe two more questions here.
Yeah.
I mean, we still have, I have a million pages up.
I'm here, bro.
Okay.
I'm here. I love doing this, and this is, I love answering questions like this.
Okay. Peyton Cockrell. What is truly the best magnification for binos for do-it-all use? 12s, 12 by 42s, 12 by 50s, 10s, et cetera, et cetera.
So this is, I get accused of like just going to the Swarovski thing, right? So, but this is what's really been interesting for me, like, about the NL Pure. Now that we know that that's possible, I think that was what was so originally so cool when I understood what they were doing, right? And so what I'm saying is that when you tell me that I could have a 10 magnification binocular, but yet I have the same field of view as my 8s, why would I not take the more magnification?
Mm-hmm.
Unless you just told me, Cody, I'm only looking at these at the lowest light hours and I'm never going to use these any other time. But I don't think that's what people are doing. That's not what we're talking about here. So you're saying I can have a 1042 with 399 foot field of view, whereas my 8s have, 408 foot field of view.
Mm-hmm.
But I get to have that 2 extra magnification. I would take the 10. Now, I will also say that is why so many people have bought the NL12. Well, it's smaller than most 1250s. Oh, it is smaller than 1250s. It's It's the same weight as a regular 10. And you're telling me that I get the extra power, but I have more field of view than a lot of 10s do. Mm-hmm. Why would you not take that?
Yep.
So I guess it kind of goes back to like, yes, if price is no deal, but I would tell you that if I just had to pick one and I wasn't doing the NLs, I'd probably lean on the 1040 or 42 really, really heavily. Because I can put that on a tripod. It's got a 4mm plus exit pupil. You know, I think that's always why the 10 is done. You can handhold it pretty easy. Mm-hmm. You know, I think, you know, when you put a 1042 on a tripod, it extends the range by a lot. And so, if we weren't talking about the 1242 NL Piers, I would stick around the 10 power very, very much. That's my personal opinion.
Okay, perfect. This one is from another one of my favorite humans. That's why I'm picking this one right now, because I saw his Instagram handle. This is from Bones. You guys will see Bones here in a little bit. He actually shot with us on our Marchery Madness archery tournament at the Iron Buck. He helped set up our archery range in the back of the warehouse.
Oh, very cool.
Really good friend of GOHUNT.
Oh, nice.
Does a lot of cool stuff for us. His question is, and you're the perfect person for this question too, by the way. What's the best buy once, cry once Swarovski spotting scope?
Well, if I just kind of had to pick one to do it all, I'm really partial to either the ATX, STX 85. You know, because I think it's a good balance between weight and so that would be really tough for me. Some people would lean into the 95 pretty hard. I don't know if I used the 95 for like 4 years in a row, and the STX, incredible piece of gear, and I appreciated the 70 power. I will tell you though, when I switched and started carrying the 85, and sometimes I do these things just to say that I've done it. Man, I really started to appreciate its size and weight, and yeah, I mean, for me, it would be like an 85 millimeter. There would be people that would argue like, well, okay, do you go with the old style STS 80 or do you go? And I would go with the 85 most of the time, because I think if a guy, you know, wants to get into a BTX, I think the BTX 85 is incredibly underrated. You know, there's a lot of guys that use the BTX in a 65 millimeter, but I think the BTX 85, you got a 2.83, you know, exit pupil, super easy to look through, and 30 power. Man,
30 power is nice sometimes.
It really, really is just an easy piece to look through. But yeah, I would tell him, you know, and certainly we could talk about, you know, situations and what's he's trying to do, and, you know, like the areas he hunts and the ground he's covering or whatever. I would simply say an ATX or STX, you know, 85 millimeter would be incredible, and something you could build on.
Perfect. Shout out Bones. He's my boy.
my boy Bones.
My boy Blue. I just got one. I mean, I got more here, but one more. We kind of touched on it earlier too. Hester Sports Fishing. He's asking, are other companies such as Vortex and Swaro going to make an image stabilized bino? What are your thoughts there? I think we covered that before. But I'm not
well,
sure.
I think there's, I mean, you know, Vortex, I don't know what they're doing. I haven't heard anything. But I think that all these companies, to some degree, have to be looking at this. There's no way that they're not. I can confirm that there's people talking about it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's questions being asked. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing that's fun about my job is I get companies that call me and go, hey, Cody, what are you hearing? Mm-hmm. Like, what are people truly asking for?
Yep.
Okay, well, here's what they're asking for. Mm-hmm. So some of these companies do a phenomenal job at listening to that, and some either care or don't care, but most of them ask.
Yep. I was doing the same thing at SHOT Show. I was walking around all these optic companies like, hey, can you guys make this? And obviously it's for my specific needs.
Sure.
But I'm sure a lot of people are thinking it too. They're like, yeah, we actually heard a lot about that.
Yeah.
I was literally going around telling them, what about this? What about this? Have you considered that? And I was walking up to multiple ones. They're like,
well,
they're considering.
I think it would be highly inappropriate for me to talk about that discussion, but I'll flat out tell you that I've told 2 companies specifically about spotting scopes that called me and said, hey, well, what are you thinking? What are you doing? And, what are you hearing? I'm like, man, if you could do this, like I'm saying on a personal level, like that's what I would want, because that's what I think hinges me up when I'm looking at the longest distances, and I just need that extra little crispness, and I want that. Am I focused to the T? And I think that would help people more than they possibly know.
Yep.
So, and I mean, Sig, Swarovski, Zeiss, I hope they're all listening. I hope they're all paying attention. I want them all to do something like that. Options. Give me options. It's like keys and locks. I just want people to be able to fit into whatever, brand or whatever makes sense for them.
Love it.
Yes, sir.
So that was that. That was
that's it. That's all you got for me today. I traveled 4 hours yesterday, and that's all you got is 80. I don't even know how many questions we ended up doing, but
yeah. So I'll throw you one more.
Okay.
It's a good one. Sam Wise RRR. Wiser. Maybe it's Wiser RR. Does a smaller field of view really matter considering replacing my chest binos with Zulu 6s?
Well, yeah, it does. It's so here's what's nice about the 1030s. It's a 200 and I know I should know this. It's either 273 or 278. So yeah, why not? I think when you get into more dense country or field of view matters. So I mean, look, if it doesn't matter to you and you just are like, oh, there's the deer I want to look at. I mean, I get it, but I think that's, I want to be able to know before I shoot that buck, is there another buck standing over here? Like, what's that buck looking at? You got 2 different bulls bugling at you and they're coming in and maybe I have a wide enough field of view that I can make a decision because if I make that decision correctly, doesn't that allow me to make directionalize my, is that even a word? Directionalize?
I love it.
Whatever, we're going with it today. But doesn't that allow me to direct my elk call one direction versus the other to try, maybe that bull's bigger and I want him to come this way. The wind's doing this and I'm like, doesn't that allow me to make decisions? So for me, how about a guy in a tree stand?
Yeah.
You hear that, the coming down the trail in the leaves, right? And he looks at them, but he can hear something off in the distance, and all of a sudden, because of the field of view, now he's got both deer in his field of view. And how many times has a guy shot the wrong buck?
Yeah.
Again, this isn't to say somebody's doing something right or wrong, but field of view that it gives me options and knowledge and an awareness.
Yep.
So, yeah, to me, field of view is important.
Boom. I do have, so in going through all these questions and looking at it, I do see a lot of trends.
Yep.
A lot of stabilization.
Yep.
Vortex compared to other optics, compared to this, some rifle scope stuff. Not a lot of rangefinder questions, which I thought was interesting. And one thing I really thought was interesting, there was not a lot of talk about bino clamps. None of the people had stuff about bino adapters or all that stuff. I thought maybe we'd have some more of that. And what I really was surprised, no one asked a question about the all-in Nexus system.
It's new.
Very new. So that's probably why not people have seen it yet.
Yeah.
We haven't really, we've done a little bit of talking about it.
And we're doing some launching on it too. And for people that don't know what he's talking about, is All In, the company that makes the digiscoping adapters, has come up with a base plate that both has a magnet and like a circular groove, if you will, that you could keep your tripod like this and you put the spotting scope on and turn it in it. and it locks into place, both magnetized and in those grooves. It's always interesting to me because these things get launched, and I think this is maybe this summation of. So you guys were at the Salt Lake City, you know, the Western Hunter Con, and as cool as that show is, and as fun as it is, and as many people that you're seeing and companies are seeing, but yet you think to yourself, man, that person doesn't know what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. And it kind of makes you think sometimes our bubble is maybe smaller or bigger. And so it kind of tells me that we need to do a better job of getting that out there. And the truth of it is, what an awesome product to do that with. And it locks on. It's got a little thumb tab that when you want to undo it, you turn it, and it's probably one of the slickest little systems I've seen in a very long time that relates to like bino adapter or spotting scope adapter quick release.
Yep, very quick release. And the one thing I thought was really cool too, because I've had an early prototype since the Hunt Expo. I've been testing it and using it. We did a little video in the desert the other day with it, and I love it. But one thing I really enjoyed is it works on Arca Swiss system. Yeah, I said that right. So basically, I can just throw it on any sort of tripod I have right now. It's all Arca Swiss. So I can slide it on there. That lock feature, like you said, is really handy, because that was one thing I asked him right away. I was like, well, what if I don't do this very often because I baby my optics as much as I can. What if I want to throw it in my backpack really quickly and go hiking? Is that magnet going to slip, fall off? That lock makes it, boom, stay on there.
There's a thumb tab on it.
Thumb tab, you can push that button. And just, like you said, the speed.
Oh, yeah.
The speed of switching from binos to spotters, slap it on there, twist it, and the modularity of also using it for other things too. Like I can use it on my camera strap stuff. Like I can put my camera on there, slap it on there, twist it.
100%.
Works really great. Digiscoping, glassing from a vehicle.
Right.
Slap it on there, switch between binos. I want to glass off the window to a spotter. That's going to make it a lot easier. Like it's really cool, unique. It's like one of those things too, again, that's like you see it and you're like, dang, why didn't I think of that?
Well,
like just like that's like all digiscoping.
The funny part is that I'm not like I had thought before, like how could you make it do this way? But when you see somebody who did something that cool, and Paul and Nathan over there at Allin, they did a great job with it, and I was blown away when they called me and said, "Hey man, we're going to be launching a product." I'm like, I've told them first thing, I'm like, show me what it is, and they showed me, and I was like, oh.
Yeah. And then
I'm like, there is some really cool. And so within about 5 minutes, I said, okay, well, here's I think I had 4 or 5 instant, not criticisms, but
our ideas were the same.
But honest questions of, okay, well, how are you going to do this? And how does it do against that? And then what do you do with it? And so they very systematically showed me how well it worked. Oh. And so, I just think that it's, Brady, there's all this coolness going on, like the guys at Allin, Drew at Tricer, Rydell at Asiac. These guys are building stuff for a need in the market. Mm-hmm. And how cool is it of guys like yourself and me and anybody else that's got anything good to come up with? Because these ideas aren't just always born from me or, I never think that kind of stuff, but man, it's 2 guys sitting on the mountain going, hey, like, dude, wouldn't it be nice if we could, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And that stuff happens. And I just think it's really cool when we get the opportunity to work on that kind of stuff and certainly ask questions. Yeah, and by the way, be entrusted enough that they would say, hey, we haven't released this yet. So like, give us your, what's your real thought on this?
Yep. Because I know they talked to you before they talked to me on it. And like one of the questions I instantly thought too is like, is there going to be slop on this product?
Yep. There's no slop.
Oh, that's inside. I tried to grab it, tried to move it, put it on there. It's like, I've tried to wiggle it back and forth. There's no slop. All I'm getting is like, movement down below in the legs, but there's not slop on the Nexus base plate system at all. Like it locks on there perfect and super tight.
Well, so this is my thing, like, so a lot of times they'll show somebody like, okay, so let's say your binos are like this, right? Mm-hmm. And your head is, faced, either handle to you or handle away. Well, I think when they were like doing some demonstrations, like on the gun part, they went to turn the head. Well, for me, when my tripod and head are on target, like I try everything I can not to move that at all. Period. Nothing moves. But the fact that I can now put my spotter on sideways and then just click it right into spot without moving the head, get out of here. It's awesome.
Yep, game changer.
Yep, 100%.
So that was a fun podcast. Love this, different style format.
Well, I appreciate I love coming in and I love being able to help out like this. And
so hopefully everyone listening enjoys it. If you guys do, drop us a comment on YouTube or reach out to us or whatever you want to do to let us know if you like it or not. But it was really good. Obviously, we have a lot more questions. I'm sure probably a lot more been asked since we're on the podcast. But
sure.
Thank you again, Cody, for basically being our encyclopedia of optics knowledge and helping users out make the best decision possible for their hunt.
Place of love, Brady.
Yep. How can people get hold of you if they have some other questions they want to follow up with?
optics@GOHUNT.com. You could email me there. You can call 702-847-8747 and one of Luke or Taylor or somebody else will definitively let us know or get you to me. I do this all the time, but if you want to text me on my cell phone, 602-399-3699, that's easy too.
This is what I love about Cody. He's willing to give his cell phone number out. And what I will say too, I've spent a few nights at your house traveling back and forth, heading over there. And he does answer the phone at like 8, 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah, it's not
uncommon. He's talking to people at optics. He's dealing with them, waking up early in the morning. He's talking optics. He literally talks optics 24/7, 365.
So I got to be careful sometimes. Like sometimes the wife wants to shoot me, but the truth of it is hey, look, this is the way I think about it. There's some nights I'm just sitting back watching TV, and if a guy wants to talk optics with me, I will talk optics, brother. What he has to say with optics is way more interesting, typically, almost always, than what's going on the TV. So I would tell you that, look, if I can talk, I'll talk. If I can text, I'll text. And if not, I do my very best to make it so that I call you back at least the next morning.
Yeah, that's what I appreciate about you.
Yeah. But yeah, absolutely.
Awesome, bud. Well, thanks again. And
thank you for having me. I love it.
Get you on the flippity flip.
You got it. Thank you, bud.